morning, everyone. Good evening and good afternoon if you're from other part of the USA. And thank you so much for joining us this morning. We are having a chai and just chat session. I actually have my chai with me. I'm going to sit back and relax to these experts answer questions. So many questions I have. I'm sure we all have answers to that, but it's always wonderful to hear perspectives from others who've experienced a different path in their lives based on their professional life or personal life and some of the testimonials that we're going to hear from them. So thank you again for joining. This is our fourth year into our Chai and Just Chat session. These are monthly sessions. And I'm going to do a brief introduction of the panelists today. And then as you get to hear from them, you'll get to know more about their other activities as well. And you have already asked us questions, and we have incorporated that into our discussion today. And all these sessions are recorded. So thank you so much. Sit back and learn from our discussions today. So we have Kavita Chippo today, this morning. Kavita, thank you for joining us. I've been following Kavita on her posts, and I can tell you it's very intense. It's just thought provoking. And the irony is, Kavita and I are actually meeting for the first time just 5 minutes ago. And I see this most of the time that I know them, but still I haven't met them, but I still know them, right? You have that feeling just because you've been following them. She is a freelance writer and a media personality. She did break gender barriers because she was the first Indian woman sports journalist. So kudos to you on that, Kavita. You've set being a role model from a long time ago. So thank you. And so Kavita does work on several sensitive socio-cultural issues. And as I mentioned from some of the posts that she does, they are very thought-provoking, and it makes you think beyond what you would normally think. And she does host a multimedia website, kavitachibber.com. So feel free to get there. And also Kavita, very interesting. And I would love to hear as we move and talk in the session today about you're also a pranic healer. And so, how I know in the tech industry, it's really competitive for women. And, there's a gap, gender gap, but definitely I would love to hear in this industry how it is for women to come up into this field. So thank you for joining us, Kavita. Next, we have Pam Line-Miller. Pam, thank you for joining us. Pam and I met probably a year or two ago. She was the chief guest for a debate for youth panelists. So Pam, you are also the president of Vertical Vision. You do consulting for executives to achieve their goals and think beyond. You are also a mountain climber. All I can say, Pam, is I can just climb like the Suwannee mountain here, and I'm already panting, right? So I'm sure something that we can all learn from. You are also a runner and an equestrian. Can you tell us, just for those who are having had hard time understanding what that is?
An equestrian, a horseback rider.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's cool.
That was in my younger years. I don't really do that as much anymore, but I rode competitively as a teenager.
Okay, sounds good. And this is part of her story for Pam. And she also has expertise in IT and sales. And her superpower is communication. If only we all could communicate as well, Pam. So thank you. Something that we would learn from you today. Dennis Lowe is Dennis Lowe and I go way back from 6 years. We've kept in touch from 6 years. She just mentioned earlier to me that when I ran for campaign, she voted for me. So Dennis, it's long to you. Thank you for that, and still continuing to keep in touch. You are the broker owner of Landmark Commercial and Residential Properties. You concentrate both on residential and the commercial construction, resale, office, retail, and industrial leasing. And you are also in the leadership position with DeKalb Association Realtors, and you made some drastic changes, positive, good changes there as a leader. And also you received few awards there as well. And you were also doing some charity activities along with your family, with Habitat for Humanity and in the Dynamo Swim Club and Food Bank. So kudos to you for finding time apart from being with your family and professional life and your social activities activities. So great job, Dennis. Next, we have Fazleen Sohani is a professional actor and is signed up with an acting agency. She has hosted a radio show in the past. If you know her through Zoom Atlanta, and she says her heart lies back in Pakistan. But Fazleen, we have so much to learn from you here. I remember watching you on the screen with the movie Simran. This was 2 or 3 years ago. You did a great job. If I remember, you were the doctor professional there. You were the doctor in the movie, and so you are also Fazleen, a pop singer, and you can play instruments like keyboard, flute, and guitar. And you do speak Farsi, Hindi, Persian, and Urdu and Spanish. So wow, way to go, Fazleen. We are happy to have you here this morning. Ani, you are from Karnataka originally, south part of India. That's where I did my medical school. So, and you call Georgia your southern state in the US your home as well. And you're a father of twin daughters and husband to a wife who works with children with special needs. And she's also a yoga instructor. I followed her yoga instructions as well for some time from your wife. So thank you, Ani. And you do enjoy golf during your weekends. And you are an executive working with HCL America, where you spent 20 years almost. Wow. And you have traveled over 50 countries for work and have enriched and experience in interacting with folks across many cultures. So, Ani, we see that you have the universe behind you, just to remind us that we are a small part of this entire universe. And I feel like all my troubles are already gone and they look very minute right now. So, looking at your background. So, thank you, Ani, for that special. Yes. And then, of course, we have Nirupama. As you can see, Nirupama is being a mom. The kid right there. That's the actual ladies and women, right? So a cute kid there, Niru. I'm actually introducing. I don't know if you're able to hear us, but it's fine. You're fine. So Nirupama is based in London, originally from India, South India. She's an investment portfolio consultant and a working partner and campaigner with pioneering charities in UK. She works with National Childbirth Trust and Magpie Project. We would love to hear more of that in US. I mean, of course, we don't know much about the charitable activities, but I gather that most of them involve providing assistance to destitute families with children. So, Nirupama, thank you for joining us in midst of your busy mom schedule, which is very understandable. Thank you all the way from London. So we do have Vice Chair Natalie Hall, who will join us during the session, and I'll make a brief introduction as we move forward with the discussion today. But the first part of our discussion is we are going through a general questionnaire where I want you all to answer, and then we'll go into the deep discussion. So I want to start with Denise. Denise, the first question for you is, if you had to give every human being one quality, what would it be and why?
You're asking me?
Yes, Denise.
Okay, you say one quality
If
of
you
a
would
human
like
being.
to, yes, if you would like to give one quality to a human being, what would it be?
Respect.
Okay, and why?
I think it doesn't matter what is your color, what is your gender, whatever. You have to respect each other, regardless. Okay, that is the problem that we don't have right now. People don't respect each other. I mean, any kind of human being. Okay, as you can tell, we are all Asian, right? But when I grew up, I mean, it's not because of who you are. That doesn't really matter. In India, we understand the hierarchy system. You can born in a rich family, or you can born, I mean, God knows, you born in a poor family. But as long as you respect each other, that is the quality that we should have. Doesn't matter, okay, who you are, but respect each other.
I love it. Everybody's nodding their head, Denise. I think you hit the nail on the head. I think the entire discussion, if I have to end it with one word, it would be respect. So thank you, Denise, for starting our conversation. While we were asking you a question, our Vice Chair, Commissioner Natalie Hall, joined. Thank you, Natalie, for joining us. If you can hear us. Natalie, can you hear us? Okay, so while she's working on her settings, how so Ani, the next question is for you, right? When were you the happiest? If you can unmute yourself.
When was I the happiest? I mean, I'm constantly evolving. So, uh, you know, uh, a kid is raised by a village, right? I mean, you kind of evolve. I was fortunate to be uh, bred or brought up in a very emancipated family. My uh, my grandmother happened to become a widow at a very early age. She had to raise three kids, and she became a journalist. She was the first working lady journalist of Karnataka. So the upbringing that I've had, uh, I was probably not brought up in probably the most traditional of manners, and hence I believe that I think I'm on the right path of evolution. So, and when I do make mistakes, I do get, slapped on my wrist by my daughters and by everybody who matters. So, I guess happiness is a evolving thing for me. Just, I remain happy. So,
Okay, awesome, great answer. I definitely was looking for that kid in us that brings out a different type of happiness without any borders. So thank you, Pam. The next question is for you. What is your greatest fear, and how do you manage fear in general?
Oh my goodness. My greatest fear. I think my greatest fear used to be failure. And I wouldn't necessarily try things because I was afraid to fail. And what I've learned as I got older is that that's really an iterative learning experience, that you fail and then you learn from that and don't repeat that same thing, and you move forward and just push through the fear of failure on the next thing. And I think I still have that fear, don't we all, when you set out to do something new? And I love to challenge myself with new things. I'm always doing that, but there's always that fear of failure. But from my learning, I've learned that the reward is on the other side, and if you push through that, then you can get overcome it. You're not going to get rid of it; just overcome it.
Definitely.
Yeah,
Thank you, Pam. Overcoming fears is one thing that women should be very good at and continue to work on. Yeah.
yeah.
And I can tell you tons of stories from my personal life, but you know what? The best part is overcoming it. So, Kavita, the next question for you is who is someone you respect or admire and why?
That would be my father, because I think a girl's first long-term relationship with a man is with her father, and she rises on the shoulder of that man, and the way she is treated is also reflected by the way he treats his wife and his children. So I was the first girl in the family. There were six brothers, and I have mentioned this on Facebook, but my mother tells me that when I was born, my father would sit there. He was a quiet man, retired as a military general. So he would touch my fingers and my toes and say, "She's so perfect." And so that's how I was raised, that whatever I wanted to do, I was the best in it. I was perfect. So I always say that whatever little I've achieved in life is because I rose on the shoulders of my dad. And whatever failures there are, they are mine, because my father was perfect and remains perfect in my eyes. I lost him in November,
I'm
but
sorry.
that is the one thing that I would say. He was always the man I admired most, and the qualities that I looked for in the man I married, and trying to raise my son the same way.
Wow, that's so intense, and you've sort of, I think we are done for our discussion today, Kavita. You just sort of mentioned everything that how a man is very important in a girl's life throughout from birth to the married life to becoming a mother, right? So thank you for bringing those important points. Fazleen, the next question is for you. What surprised you most in your career, or what challenge did you encounter that was really a surprise?
Well, first of all, good morning to all the lovely panelists and Nazeera, to you, all your viewers. Um, Life is full of surprises every single day. and especially in the field that I am fortunate to be a part of, acting. Um, there are pleasant and not so pleasant surprises that we encounter. Like every audition that we get, every time we get in front of camera, that's a surprise, because you surprise yourself sometimes when you give an outstanding performance. Or you think you did a great job, but when you watch yourself, you're like, oh my God, I can't believe that's me. And I see Pam laughing, and everyone else. I'm sure we all have had those moments. So I believe there are surprises every day. I really can't think of one specific one, but life in itself is a surprise. Every day is. So I look forward to it now. I embrace it as I've evolved more. And I look forward to every day as a beautiful surprise.
That's the best part. Looking forward, to getting up in the morning and accepting it. So thank you, Faslane, for bringing those key points. Vice Chair Natalie, can you hear us? Can you unmute yourself, please?
Yes, can you hear me now?
We can hear you. Yes, definitely. I want to make sure we don't lose you. So I'll do a brief introduction of you, Vice Chair, and then and if it's fine, I'll going to call you Natalie, if that's okay with you, and then I'll ask you the question as well. But let me make a quick introduction of you. So I know Vice Chair Commissioner. She's the 4th District Commissioner for Fulton County, and I know her from almost a decade now. And I've always admired her. I've always thought she was composed. I'm sort of an opposite person. I'm like, I get so excited soon, and and I'm jumping. But I've always seen her like very composed and calm and responding. And I'm like, oh my gosh, where does she get that composure from? Very calmness. Even at the worst of the situations, she'll calm and she'll respond. So I always admired that of you. I don't know if I've told you this before, Natalie, but I just wanted to make sure I say that that I've always appreciated that of you, and I think so many people are able to learn that from you as a woman in politics, where everything can turn upside haywire in any minute, any moment, right? But you are you are representing the heart of Atlanta, downtown, midtown, Old Fourth Ward, Collier Heights, and Boulevard. And so the unique attribute about this district, it's completely inside the city of Atlanta. That's awesome, right? You are also a health commissioner, so you make sure the lives and citizens of Fulton County has a positive impact in health in the policies and legislations that you bring forth or you vote on. You have 25 years of management experience in the public and private sector, and you earned your master's degree in business administration from Keller Graduate School of Management in Atlanta. And like I said, you are the sponsor of All People Are Healthy in the Fulton County. So, Commissioner, thank you for joining us and taking your time off of your busy schedule today. The question that I have for you, and this is a general question, right? So, what was your, and I don't know why I even am asking this, but I'll still ask because we don't know what surprising answers we'll get. What was your first win that made you confident that you were doing the right thing?
What was my first win, you said?
Yes, first win that made you confident that you were doing the right thing.
Oh, that's really, really an easy question for me because I never thought that I would ever be elected or in any political position whatsoever. I was an IT manager for over 30 years, and I thought that was going to be my career for the rest of my life. But what happened was I had a friend. Her name was Joan Garner. She lived a block away from me. She contacted me and said, I'm going to run for Fulton County Commissioner of District 4, and will you help me? Because you have the IT knowledge that I need on my campaign team to create a website, social media presence, and everything that I need. And of course, I helped her because she was my friend. And once she won and was sworn in 2011, she asked me to come work for her. And upon which I responded and said, I think you've lost your mind. And I said, what do I look like in government and politics I'm an information technology manager. And she said, I see something in you that I don't think you realize you have. You just have an innate ability to respond to things that happen in a political environment. And she said, I think it stems from your upbringing in Chicago with Chicago politics and your family being a part of that government system. And so I held out for 9 months until finally I went to work for her. And I ended up staying with her for the entire 6 years that she was elected. Upon, unfortunately, she died from cancer in 2017. And so I was faced with, what do I do now? Do I go back into information technology where I had a lot of job offers when people found out that she passed, but I couldn't figure out how could I serve the people in the same capacity that I was doing as her chief of staff. And so it was this rush of people contacting me via social media, text messaging, emails, phone calls saying, you have to run, you have to continue the work. You're the only one that knows how to do it. And I stepped out on faith. And because I said, that's the only way I'm going to be able to help people. And when I stepped out on faith, I won in a special election in 2017. And that's when I knew that I was walking in the will of God for my life and that this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And I'm so glad I never look back and wish for anything else. I tell my team, this is not a job. You don't punch in and punch out. This is a lifestyle. You live it. Serving the people is not hard work, it's heart work. And so this is what I know I'm supposed to do. And that's the win that led me to this position in knowing that this is what I'm supposed to do in life.
Very nice. And we wish you the best in serving and in your position right now, and and your ability to reach many, many, many more an inspiring way as well. So thank you so much, Vice Chair, for joining us. Ani, I do see you have a comment. If we can make that quick, I'll go to Nirupama. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to thank Vice Chair Natalie for your service. Public service is not easy, and I sincerely appreciate your work.
Thank you so much.
Definitely do. Nirupama, so I see that you are showing us a nice background of entire, probably is that London, and it resembles our US right here. And wow, you're showing the reality of mom's life, right? You have a baby of 3 years old. Let me ask you a question. I can see that you are taking her on a stroll in a park in London. If you can just tell us which specific city, so we are able to connect from UK. But my question to you is, if you could improve the world by doing one thing, what would you choose to do?
Sorry, I can't hear you
Sure.
well.
So if you could improve the world by doing one thing, what would you choose to do?
If I could do one thing, there is no one thing. As like I think if there is one thing that could be done, like that is if people could be how do I tell you, educated of a lot of things, like first thing, compassion. Okay, because at this age, I mean, when I was young, it was different. Like I feel like I don't even belong to the world, like in the past 5 years, because social media has changed the world so much. There is absolutely no compassion left for people anymore. If there is, that is from the previous generations, I mean, like who are 30 plus. If you actually look at kids of this generation, they absolutely lack compassion. They don't know, um, they don't understand the value of another person's emotion. They don't respect emotion. So I think if there was one thing that I could do, I would say educate people. Educate people, again, education, like, I don't go with the word or concept of right and wrong. What might seem right to me might seem wrong to you. So I will not go with that. But, educating people with the basic sense of respect and compassion for others. It's not just humans. It's also, it used to be, people used to be incompassionate to animals, but now it's come to their own kind,
Very
you
well
know,
said.
and especially now being a mother, um, in countries like in countries like UK, and especially Western countries, where this concept of social services and children enforcement and children support, child care support, and all those stuff, they make it even difficult for kids to understand what respect is, because, back home in India, or like any ancient cultures, Africa or India or Asia, okay, you have the authority over your child. If your child does something, you can snap your child and say this is wrong. Okay, I can understand, up to the age of 2 3, yes, they won't understand, but, at the age of 5 or 6 or 7, you can teach the child. If they are going to repeat it again and again, you snap them. But in this country, they are being questioned. My daughter is 3 years old. She goes to nursery from 2, yeah. So she is passively questioned in the nursery, like, how does your mommy beat you, does your mommy scold you? That is a very wrong impression that you give to kids. So kids, even if you try to imply respect on them, or teach them respect, they're not going to learn. Like, they're going to go back and say, like, okay, fine, my mom is beating me, or my dad is beating me, and it would end up the other way around. So, which is why you see, in countries like Asia, sorry, in Asian countries and African countries, you don't see kids going, like, uh, being ruthless. Because if I did something wrong, my neighbor has the thought, like, they would take up on themselves to tell me what is wrong. Here, you can't do that in Western countries, which is why, and this culture is moving there, is influencing Asian countries, and they think it is okay to disrespect. So I
Definitely.
I would say, uh, educating people of respect and compassion,
Definitely. I think
educating.
you brought several points here, Nirupama, and I think we're going to discuss that over the time period of the time that we are here. You brought something
Yeah,
about cultural differences. You brought about, how can that be translated, and how can examples be set? And I think we come back to respect and compassion, which is missing in
yeah,
this social media era. And I'm also on a board
yeah.
member of an organization, nonprofit called Compassionate Atlanta. So we are
Oh,
continuously seeing how do you educate compassion? How do you teach compassion? So those are
yeah,
things that we on the board continue to discuss. So great points that you brought up today. Definitely we'll be able to work towards some of those points. Let's go into our core discussion. And Niru, thank you for taking the time, though, along with your child. We are
yeah.
loving. At least I don't know if the others are how their feeling is. I'm liking the movement that she's saying that, hey, I'm a mom of 3 years old, if I have to participate, this is what I bring in, right? And we are accepting it. So thank you for joining. Kavita, my question to you is, women are systematically underrepresented in any decision making processes, right, that shape either the societies or within their own lives. So how have so and there are limited opportunities as well as that, but though we are half of the population of the world, right? So when women are constrained from reaching their full potential, even though we are 50% of the world representation, we have the world as a society has lost so much over there. So can you tell us how you were able to reach your potential, becoming not just the chronic healer, even from your being the journalist that you are, and maybe just a path that many of you take. You're on mute, Kavita. If you can unmute yourself.
Thank
Yes.
you. Like I said earlier on, that a woman's first relationship is with her father, and how she is raised and how she perceives herself. The parents are very instrumental in that. So I think I kind of grew up in a utopia where I didn't face any of what has been discussed, disrespect, or even not being given opportunities. And as I said to you, that I decided to become India's first woman journalist when I was 18 years old, when women were hardly seen or heard in the late 70s, and early 80s in India. And my father, being a military man and me being his firstborn and a girl, he was very protective and possessive. And he said, "You can do whatever you want, but a soldier with a gun is going to accompany you with shoot at sight orders." And I was just talking to one of my dear friends who is a sports legend right now. And I said to him that, the cool thing about reconnecting with old friends is he was a rising superstar. And I was an 18-year-old. He was my first interview. Those of you from India would know his name, Kapil Dev. And 2, 3 decades later, we reconnected. We were chatting every day. And I said, the wonderful thing about, hanging out with old friends is there's no filter. You can say anything without being misunderstood. And very tongue in cheek came his reply. He said, "You never gave anybody, any guy, a chance to misunderstand you. You were very clear and very bossy, even at 18, and very authoritative. And yeah, we remember that guy who used to stand behind you with a gun." But jokes apart, I think I came from a family of very strong women. Both my grandmothers were young widows. My father's mother raised 6 boys. And my father always says that, he was 8 when his father passed away. My father always says that when a man has a woman as his role model, there is an automatic appreciation of what a woman can do. So there was my grandmother with 6 boys, victim of partition, moved to Amritsar in a refugee camp. There's a black and white picture of all the children. My dad's younger brother, sitting on a steel suitcase, not knowing what his destiny would be. And 50 years later, my grandmother was alive to see him come back at the same spot as governor of that state, Punjab. And her picture was everywhere in the news media. And what she said to me was, never lose self-respect, always be proud of who you are, and whatever a boy can do, you can do better. And if the pandemic has shown us anything, it is that if you look at every country that was where a woman was head of state, starting from New Zealand, they have done a greater job of handling it than all the countries ruled by men, where men were head of state. So I think I was taught very earlier on self-respect and to believe in who I was. And, when I became a woman sports journalist, I have to say that Indian men are given a very bad rap, but I was protected by all the sportsmen that I met. They would run into the dressing rooms and put their clothes on. They would tell me who to interview and who not to interview because somebody did not speak correctly. And I was nurtured by men along the way. All my mentors were men. And how you conduct yourself is how people will treat you. So I never really had to face whatever price I commanded, whatever I wanted, I was paid more than men. Even then, I would demand a price, it was given because the work I did was so extraordinary. And I never saw a gender inequality. In fact, my brothers always complained that they were the second-rate citizens because I was always given priority over them. So I came from a utopian world until I was in college, when a friend of mine got married and her mother-in-law said to her in front of me that if you produce a girl, don't come back. And if you produce a boy, I will give you this piece of jewelry. And I pulled up her husband and I said, are you going to tell your mother that it's your sperm that determines the sex of the child, or do you want me to tell her? Because if I tell her, it's not going to be very pleasant. So that was the day that I realized that, okay, so there is something going on there that's not right. And so as I continued to be a freelance journalist because, again, I didn't have the personality to work under anybody. I did not want to write about something that I did not believe in. And inadvertently, I did not realize that I was creating my own brand. That if it's Kavita Chibber who wants to interview you, you know that you'll be respected, but she'll also ask you the tough questions. And so I think that if the pandemic has taught us anything, it's that women and men are more close in the opportunities and the thinking and what they want to be in their lives. That the yin and the yang are pretty compatible if we decide to work together than against each other. And I find the younger generation of men are much more open. I'm married to a much younger man. He's now in his mid 40s, but he's worked with women bosses all his life and he loves it. And they nurture him. He finds an empathy and a compassion and a focus on relationships that women bring, where men, unfortunately, even the ones who are in touch with their feminine side in terms of being compassionate and empathetic and kind, and trust me, I've met more such men than women sometimes. They are supposed to portray a certain image of being abrasive, being in your face. Did you guys know that the states in the United States that have female governors actually have lesser cases of coronavirus than where men I was just reading Bloomberg and Forbes, and there was one of these studies that came out, and that was because women were able to reach out to the public and show the empathy to them as people, as human beings, a father, a mother, like Angela Merkel said in one of her speeches. It's not about statistics and numbers. It's about your father, your grandfather, your mother who's impacted by the virus. So, because when people relate to that compassion and know that somebody genuinely cares about you, they follow the rules of social distancing. And I mean, if you look at Brian Kemp, I was in Atlanta longer than I've been in Boston. But if Brian Kemp signs something into law where you can't offer water to somebody standing in line to vote, then what does that show you? An utter lack of compassion. And so, if I could teach the world one thing, it would be empathy and inclusivity. Like, we are all underneath the color of our skin, not just as women, but even as men. We have the same concerns. We want a good life. We want to earn a living. We want to support our family. We want our children to be safe. Is that a gender specific concern? Not at all. And anything in life, any massive tragedy or travesty, as I keep on saying, whether it's corona, whether it's whatever we face in our lives, it's an equal opportunity companion. A man isn't excluded from dying of cancer. A man is not excluded from being a parent. A man is not, and I see a lot of men who are staying at home so their wives can work. So I'm an eternal optimist, and respect cannot be taught by slapping a child. I'm very against that. I feel that we take out our frustration on our children, and nobody is going to learn how to be a good human being if you slap them around. My father would just raise his eyebrow at us, and that was enough for us to kind of back off. Because when you lose that respect, I've seen my friends spanking their kids and they just shrug it off. Soon their sons are stronger than the moms and they can slap them all they want. They don't care. But if you can have, children today are far smarter. I have a granddaughter who, a 2-year-old, told me what a catastrophe. The word catastrophe was used because of, a plastic stuff thrown in a recycling bin. She can teach me quite a few things at 6 that I wouldn't know. Children are far more intelligent than we give them credit for, and they're like sponges. And if you're
Yes.
setting a rule that by slapping them, you're going to discipline them, then that's a very bad precedent. You've got to let a child speak. Because tomorrow, if somebody hurts them and they are not taught to respect their voice, their own voice, then they're going to be fearful citizens of the world. And
definitely. So Kavita, no, I think oh my gosh, you just opened up a Pandora of box, and so many things about strong women, about men and women being respectful of each other. And so one question this just came to my mind last night, and I thought, let me put this out for them. This is just a yes or a no question, right? For the ladies probably, and even Ani, please join this quiz question. Not a quiz, but just a question. So if you are driving on a highway, and if you had a flat tire, and for 10, 40, 50 miles, there's no one else except you, would you be able to manage yourself? And you don't have your cell phone with you. Would you have changed the tire?
no. I'm too
Anyone else? Fazleen, yes means yes, no means.
So I have a comment. Yes, I would be able to manage myself. No, I would not be able to change the tire, but yes, I would be able to take care of myself.
Okay, maybe I should have been very specific. Would you have been able to change the tire yourself? So I was just thinking, why can't it be a woman's job to learn to, change the tire? So those are things we just limit ourselves. Hey, that's not my thing. So that's where we have to just open up to what Kavita was saying. Like sometimes we limit ourselves. That's a man's job or that's a woman's job. So definitely good to know that I
Let
had
me
company.
tell you one thing, because this is interesting. Because the first day I came to America is in New York. I was in New York City. What you just mentioned, let me tell this. The first car I drove, and you won't believe it, that is, a huge, like a Lincoln town car. I don't know if any of you still remember those 80, 70 Lincoln town car. Just the tire itself, I wasn't able to carry it. I would have to drag it down, roll it. And when I say that, means I did it, not by myself, but because I start changing the tire when somebody see, because as soon as I get off the car, I'm short. I'm not really tall. You can barely see me. And then somebody drove by, looked at me, was like, okay, I'm getting off the car and try to help her. That was back in the early 90s. Trust me, early 90s. And I'm in New York City by myself. Nobody around. And I'll start doing it. People jump off the car. That's a one young man came out and trying to help me to get it. It was like, how, you have anybody you know to call? But at that time, trust me, there's no cell phone. So when you said it, I do this is definitely been there, done that.
Wow. Yeah, you spoke the truth. So that's the story of today is speak the truth to power. So there you go, Denise. And I saw Vice Chair also saying yes, she could manage and she knows how to change the tire. So that's something I'm going to put it on my list to learn as well, which I'm going to make myself accountable. Pam, the next question is for you, and thank you, Kavita, for such a very elaborate response, which just opened us thoughts beyond our thoughts as well. So, Pam, right now there is a lot of awareness around the gender gap in the tech industry, yeah, and which makes a lot of people aware of that, how it's going to be a little bit tough for women to go ahead in the career, especially in the tech industry. And then we also have women like you who are not going to take no for an answer. Yeah. So do you think that a lot of this gap comes from misinformation and education about what can be done in the technology field, gap in the technology field? The other question that I do want to add to this is, have you been in a situation where the gender has affect because of your gender, how you were perceived or how you were treated in this industry, and how did you handle it?
Interesting that you asked me this question, because I was a woman in tech before anyone was paying attention. I was a computer science and math major in college and graduated in the early 80s. So it was very early on, worked in hospital information systems. And I will say at that time, as initially a programmer, interfacing with the field, I really didn't feel any gender situation. Then again, things were not nearly as public as they are now or spoken about. It wasn't as on the radar. But when I moved from headquarters in Pennsylvania back to Atlanta to marry my husband, I had to work in a field office. And there I definitely was in the minority. And there were only a couple of other women. And in particular, in the sales area, they were all men, no women in that area. Although women really are better at sales, we listen better. I was promoted into marketing support because I knew the technical side of some of the big IBM mainframe systems that the sales guys who had only done, that relationship selling kind of thing, no technical needed, that wasn't going to work anymore because we were getting more and more sophisticated as we got to the 90s. And they brought me in to do the demonstrations with the clients. So I was interfacing and being the client facing technical person, and then marrying the sales guy with that. And then I got promoted to an account executive. I was the first woman account executive in the Southeast for the company that I worked for. I definitely did feel different, but I was promoted to that position because of my ability. And I will say, I don't think my boss, had he had another choice of a man, would have chosen me, just because of his attitude, very male centric. And still, when I got the job, he didn't give me very much support. And, but I was out to not take no for an answer, as you said. And I really went for it. I didn't find out until later. I was in that job for about 2 years before, and I had a child about 10 months before I left that position to come home and raise her. But I made my quota the year that I had her. I was gone for 2 months, and my manager didn't even call my accounts or anything. I came back and signed all these deals that I had set up before I left, and made my quota. And he didn't even realize that I did that, because he was not supporting me. And I did really feel that. And I'm happy to say that, uh, you know, I think it was a surprise. I won an award that year as a result of doing that. I did get some recognition from corporate because they saw what was going on. But I think I'm happy that the tide is turning for women in technology now. I'm involved with, women in technology. There's programs for girls in STEM. And I think Kavita, you and we're sisters that we don't know each other yet, but I am going to connect with you because I agree that it starts with how we are working and treating our girls. And are we giving them the mindset that they can do what they're gifted to do? And I think in a lot of cases that has been no, but it's changing. And I think that's where we need to start. I have two daughters who are now grown, and both of them are working in male dominated industries. That's a whole other story. But I talked to them before this morning, and they said, we don't feel, I mean, yes, we're the minority, but we don't feel less because of our gender. And I think it's because of, they came up with a strong sense of faith and a confidence in who they are as people, and they're bringing that to whatever they do. And so I'm also optimistic, like Kavita, about what's going on with women and girls in IT and STEM and all those fields. There's a lot happening, and it's being talked about, and I think that's all good.
Very, very nice. I like the word optimistic and actions towards those optimistic thoughts. So great job, Pam, for raising wonderful kids with self-confidence in a male-dominated society. With that said, Ani, I just want to thank Ani for his patience. He's in midst of girls with his wife and girls and his kids, and even now, and I can just see his patience. So I'm coming to you, Ani, after I ask a question of a vice chair, and then Fazleen and Denise, and then definitely it's your turn. So thank you for that patience. Your spouse and your twin girls have taught you well. So thanks, Ani. So vice chair, my next question is for you. Let's talk about politics. I know you mentioned this briefly early, that it was a great win for you, unexpected great win. But even navigating the the currents of politics as a woman is really not easy, right? And then, so what is the most effective ways that you encourage, or you can encourage, or you would encourage women's political participation in context to resistance and to create that gender equality instead of the inequality?
Well, Nazeera, I would have said maybe just a few years ago that women need more of a presence in politics and government, but we have seen a trend over the past few years where women are being elected more than ever before. And I'm also seeing a trend in the business community where women are getting those C-level positions in the above the glass ceiling. And so I do see a change, and I think it is because women are more prone to get involved as mothers, as mentors, as the female figure in society who most people they go to for advice. And someone said on the panel, that we are by nature, we're the ones that nurture. And so I think that we have stepped out of our shell and stepped from behind that the glass wall, and we have really done more to be involved. And I see women involved on so many levels where I never did before. Because even for me, as a young woman going into the information technology field, and then also being Black, everywhere I went at that time, it was the late 80s. I'm dating myself, but it was the late 80s. And every organization that I went to, I was a manager, an IT manager, but I would be the only Black female, period. And this went on for decades. So I didn't really see women really rising in the ranks in the information technology field in business until maybe the late 90s, early 2000s. And so I've seen this on all levels, but be, I can really say that women have risen to the occasion.
Very
And I think,
well. Uh-huh.
yeah, I think
So
we're involved.
very nice. So let me ask this question. This was one of the questions that a registrant had asked, right? So do you think this is all an exaggeration, the gender inequality, or do we become complacent and sit back, hey, guess what, we've improved from way back then? Or is it a continuous cycle of educating and bringing awareness to women folks?
It has to be a continuous cycle of education. It can never stop, because I think that as each generation comes along, history is important. And it's one of my pet peeves when I'm in an organization and I hear people say that history doesn't matter. History does matter. It can teach you how not to make the same mistakes that were made before and give you some objectives and some ideas and some ways of combating issues that you may see arise. So I believe we have to have continuous education.
Well said. Thank you so much, Natalie. Fazleen, the next question is for you. Let's talk about cultural sensitivity and cultural awareness, right? So, can you specify of any experiences or specific experiences because of cultural differences you had obstacles to perform your job, and how did you face that? And what are the greatest challenges? Because we've been talking about leadership and talent development, what are the greatest challenges that women have in their as a leadership, in their leadership positions? Have you attained or have you done any diversity training?
Um, So, to tackle one of the questions, especially keeping the media and the entertainment industry in mind, the one of the biggest things is the wage gap that we see. The numbers speak for themselves. So, sort of piggybacking on your previous comment, that is this a myth or is this just all blown out of proportion? No, you just do a few Google searches, and you'll know that wage gap and gender inequality is a real thing because the numbers speak for themselves. Just to share with you, I actually have some stats. There was a Forbes article in August 2017 that listed the 30 highest paid actors and actresses of that year. The highest paid actor, Mark Wahlberg, made $68 million, more than 2.5 times that of the highest paid actress that year, Emma Stone. So there you go, the difference. It's a trickle down effect. I'm definitely an actor of not Emma Stone's ranking or caliber, but that wage gap definitely trickles down in whichever tier you're in, and it's across industries. If you look at economics and the World Forum, there was this astonishing fact: what percent of CEOs are in the S&P 500? Less than 5% that are women. So there you go. It's across industries. Diversity training. Have I had any? Not formal, but I feel that the more we come in contact with different diverse groups of people, panels, discussions just like this one today, I think these are all avenues for us to expose ourselves or to introduce ourselves to a diverse group of people, and at the same time learn from our diverse friends. So in that sense, again, I've been very fortunate to be part of an industry that actually brings about a lot of diversity. I've met some amazing group of that are now friends from diverse walks of lives, genders, cultures, and in that sense, I feel I get a lot of training there.
Thank you so much, and bringing those stats to reality, and just bringing it forth here in this discussion of how it is a reality and might be not an exaggeration as of yet. So gender inequality exists is your response. Thank you. Denise, let's go to you. Let's talk about workplace challenges for women, especially, right? Though Pam did touch upon it on the technology field, but women do face different challenges from various sectors in workplace, right? And all the time, every time, sometimes they speak out, sometimes you are just scared of retaliation, right? So you don't speak up and you just go with the flow. But that's talent not being able to develop and be themselves, and all those frustrations. My question to you is, in your view, what are some of these systemic challenges, or what role can male advocates and male managers play in addressing these challenges?
Okay. First of all, thank you for having me. And when Pam and Kavita mentioned all that, and just like Kavita said, we don't have a big family, but my dad was actually the role model because he's a very strong man. Okay. I'm about only 5, less than 2, a little bit less than 2. He's about 6. Okay. And so I'm a little tiny one anyway. And then my younger brother, that's the only person I have, who is about my dad's height. So I'm the shortest person. But the only one thing that my dad was telling my little brothers, of course, after he's taller than me, said, you need to respect your sister. Why she's so short? Because when we grow up, I have to carry him. When I was still growing, I have to put him on my back, carry him everywhere I go. So think about how, we are only about 3 years different. And my age, probably around 3, 4, I have to carry him around with me because we don't have anybody helping. We brought up in the family of a working family. And then to what Pam mentioned too, I was in computer science. At that time, back in the 80s, I don't know if we probably the same age, I'm thinking now, because I remember that IBM laid off many, many people that year. And that was the year that I told my dad, I'm going to be the computer science major. My dad was like, what? But put it this way, is that what you want to do? Do it, okay? Be confident of what you want to do, because I will back you up. Don't worry. Just try what you want. And when I went to the college, we had this, new students ceremony and everything. So everybody asked, who's the computer science major? I remember I was an international student back in New York. So when everybody stand up, I guarantee you, only 4 female, and I'm one of them. Only 4 male, 4 females. And back to when I was in the college and I was from Hong Kong, and I'm the science major, same thing. We have around 23 students in my class. Majority of the women at that time, for some reason, they're all arts major, because we are from British system. You're either science or art. There's no other choice. Okay, so you need to choose. And I chose science. Same thing with 23 students. And I'm the 4 of us are girls. So we are very close to each other. So everybody look at us as like, okay, you woman, you guys don't know anything, math, So that's how we grew up. But the point is, the female itself is, you need to get confidence, okay? You need to be confident in yourself. And as far as for the male, they need to give you that confidence to support you, okay? I shouldn't say give, they should support you. So whatever we do, like from my dad, from my mentor, from everybody, all the male that I know, what they did is not that you can't do it, but rather than is do it, okay? Be confident in yourself and do not worry, okay? There's a lot of time as a woman, we had this discussion, Kavita, it's no kidding. What you just mentioned about the woman as a leader of the world, I had this conversation, which Nazeera, I just came back from our GAR inauguration, okay, Georgia Association of Realtors, that we have 4 days conference in Jekyll Island. I was talking to a lot of my peers that I taught. I said, if a woman is in control of this world, it's peace, okay? We would be very peaceful. Okay, not disrespect to Annie. Don't look at me like, you know that, right? Think about all this Godfather movie. Every time the Godfather has a problem, what do they ask? Mom. Am I right? Everybody, when they're in crisis, who they ask for? Mom. So guess what? If mom is in control, we are peaceful. So you have to understand, everything when we talk about is your dad. Your dad listen to his mom. Okay, same thing when we have our son. Okay, our male, we teach them how to respect women. Okay, but a lot of time, as I mean, you know that Naru has a little girl now, but if you have a little boy, you know every time when the boy got hurt, the first time they ask for is mom. Okay, so mommy is a very important position. However, the same thing, we as a mom also need to respect, okay, our husband, okay, our father. For them, so we understand, because I always tell the people, I understand right now we have a lot of problem in this world. Everybody asks for is, okay, whatever the male, they did something, okay, you against it, say female, we need to gender equality. But what is this word called equality? I tell a lot of people, I don't want to fight a 6'5" feet, okay, big male, okay, in football field. I'm not good at football. What can I do? You throw me a ball, I'd probably be dead already, okay? But same thing, if you have to be equal in everything, I wouldn't say that is not, you can do it, but a lot of things is because of not the ability, is I born with the God. You know, they gave me only around 5, less than 2. I cannot make myself taller, bigger, and whatever. There's no way. This is not about training, okay? But what we can do is here, our mind. We can train our mind, okay, to be who we want to be and work together with each other, respect each other's ability, okay? You can be 6'5" or even 7, but if you don't have the heart of respect each other, of loving each other, you're just nobody. I can be as small as maybe, some of my family members, they are, cousin, whatever, they're only around 4, 6 or something. Even though this lady, they're very small, their boy, girls is all tall and big. But guess what? She's in control of that household. Why? Because she's wise. She's very, very wise. She sit back and give you a good advice. And then listen. Everybody need to listen to each other. Okay? We're not going to argue with everybody when they argue about something. Find out the truth first. Just like Naru mentioned, this Facebook, this social media and everything. When somebody says something about anything, make sure that you find out the truth. Do not believe. Find out the truth and then verify that. Okay? I understand right now we have so much problem. I really hope that that's the one solution that we can resolve this problem. We have the races. Now that we have race issue, we have a gender equality, and then we have politics. When all these things mix together, I tell you, it's a mess world. But if all of us could understand is respect each other, regardless you're male, you're female, you're tall, you're big, you're rich, you're poor, it doesn't really matter, okay? Listen to other people. Listen to your husband. Maybe, they felt so bad. You have a strong woman. They tell me all the time, you're so strong. Your husband never say a word. Not that he doesn't say a word. He listens. But you know what? When he say one word, you're going to blow away, okay? Because why? They've been patient. I believe that Annie really much like my husband type because they listen. They listen to whatever you want to say. You can say whatever you want to say, but they're going to give you one sentence, short it up, just tell you. But one thing we need to know is it's not about woman or male or men control this world. It's about working together as a team, okay? A woman need a man need a woman, or I'm not saying that it's male and female married. I'm not talking about it. I'm talking about is I cannot think like a man. This is what I born as a woman, okay? I don't care actually if you're gay or whatever. As long as you love each other, that is enough. But respect your partner. It's probably a better word. Is listen to your partner. Respect each other because everybody have a different kind of view because of your background, because of your gender, or because of your education your education, your culture. So we really need, okay, to listen to the other party. If you're talking about the question you have is about male, how do they support us? Is listen, okay? And we also need to give ourselves, open ourselves up to listen to other people what they want to say, rather than just telling them, you need to do this, you need to do that. No, that's wrong, okay? nothing about this kind of disrespect that we are towards each other is going to help the problem right now.
Very well said, Denise. Oh my gosh, you brought so many words into this comment of yours, the peace, and I think you sort of got my final comment that I was going to make to you all was: does everyone have the right to live in peace? And looks like you got my words off away from me. So thank you, Denise. All these wonderful words, and I've been writing notes how important it is to be wise and wisdom, especially for women, and working together and listen and respect. Oh my gosh, I just wish it was an ideal world, and it'll be a perfect. But Fazleen did raise a comment. Go ahead, Fazleen, and then I'm going straight to Ani, and then I'm coming to Niru. Go ahead, Fazleen.
Just very quickly, Denise, that was amazing. Just want to share something. I was having a conversation with my sister, one of my sisters, she's one of my mentors as well, very wise lady. And we were having a chat about a book related to misogyny and stuff. And she said something very profound, which is that it's the understanding and the acceptance of men and women that Denise just talked about, that it's a good idea to accept that men and women are different, biologically, physiologically, and men out there, Ani, and all the lovely men out there that may be listening to this at some point, we're not going to boast about the fact that we can even have babies and carry them. We're not going to go there. We're not going to let you know that that's a bit of a superiority thing, but it's a wonderful thing to accept that yes, we are differently abled in our bodies, but in terms of talent, we're not less than each other. And that understanding, acceptance, when we can attain that individually in our families, in our society, that's when we can really learn to look at each other as complementary parts, wheels of the same, two wheels of the same vehicle, rather than fighting for the upper hand.
Definitely, very well said. The balance is needed. And so, heading to Ani, that was the question I was having. Ani, now that you've listened to most of the women here, you get your chance to speak, and I know you've been patient about it. So, Ani, tell us so the first question I was going to ask was: so are women from Mars? And the book, that came out, women are from Mars and men are from Venus. I think that's what was the title was. But I wrote an article and I said men and women are from Earth, and I sort of reiterated what Denise and Fazleen mentioned in these points. The problem is we always say no, they are different. Ultimately we're all human beings, right? So, Ani, is gender equality as important as we are talking about? Is that even a concern for men? Do you guys even talk about? I know you gather in these parties, the booze parties or however parties, a good a good socio-cultural party. Do you even discuss, these men, when we get together, what he said, and how dare you do that, like in your parties, and is gender equality very important for you?
Yeah. So, okay. I don't want this to be a confession, but let's talk about it. So, number one, what is gender equality, right? I mean, first let's address that. It's not even an option. It's not an opinion of somebody that there should be gender equality. It is like breathing. You breathe, you need to breathe. Everybody needs to breathe. So it's not even a question. Now, what men do in the locker room, it's a different story. Uh, have we reached there yet? No, we haven't. United Nations has a sustainability charter with some 17 goals written down. Right? Gender equality is number 5. It's not even number 1, which is fair. I'll just read out. No poverty is number 1, which is good. Zero hunger is number 2, which is good. But number 3 and number 4 could potentially be replaced by gender equality. Number 3 is good health and well-being, and number 4 is quality education. They're not unimportant, but I think gender equality needs to go up in the United Nations Charter itself. Now, I don't know the composition of, how the male-female composition is at the United Nations board, but something needs to change, and men need to make that change. It's not just women who have to break the glass ceiling. Who's the mason? The mason is the man who built the walls. Unless the man takes the responsibility for deconstruction and reconstruction. And Kavita, I mean, I heard you as you said, utopian environment for you. But it is the environment which makes. I mean, you hear of uh, I'm a self-made person. Nobody's self-made. It's one word of motivation that you can do something leads to the self-belief. It's a game of inches to the point that Denise said most of it is here. So there is something to what Fazleen said. There is something about ability. A woman and a man can be able. The percentage can vary, but unless the mind decides to achieve, it's always going to be a game of inches, and the mind will make the difference between winning and losing. So from what United Nations says, Nazeera, what do men talk and do men really appreciate that there is inequality in and there are various facets of inequality. It's going to take 99.5 years for us to achieve gender equality is the current projection. Now, if that doesn't hit you, it just tells you that you need to do things now even more if that 99.5 has to become 50 or even 20. So that's really where my heart is in. And some of my examples, I mean, if I had to quote, this happened 2 nights ago. Uh, I just became a member of a club, took my family out for dinner. I'm not going to name the club, so took my family out for dinner. My sons-in-law walked into the poker card room where they also had a pool table, and my daughter decided to walk in there behind them. And I said, listen, I think, and I'm new to the club, but I think that's a men's only area. And both of them just stood up and said, seriously? They picked up their purse, they walked inside. And then I went to the manager. I said, listen, is that a men's only area? He said, yes, but I thought they're just passing through. I said, no. One of the journalists, and both of them are feminists. You don't even want to go in there and say anything. He said, no, no, please enjoy the party. We're not going to do anything. It's a private club. I know private clubs can have their own rules, but I think these things have to change. And my kids, they had a blast. They were there inside for an hour and they came out. So, I mean, people need to make their choices fairly. You cannot dictate who can do what. People need to live fairly.
Very well said, Annie, and thank you so much. What a wonderful kids, as role models for many, many, many more, even for this generation as well. So, Annie, I think, you're basically saying men and women are from Earth and have to live together and work together, just like Denise said. So,
Yeah, but they want to, women want to go to Venus and men want to go to Mars.
no. Is that true, guys? No.
We do
We
not.
all want to live in Earth. We want to communicate better. All we are asking for is respect us, respect our intelligence, and that we will be able to perform as better as or good as you. So I think that's what we all want to say. But with that said, Niru, my next question. So thank you, Annie, for a very positive recent testimonial that you gave. Niru, my question to you is. We've been talking about male advocates and how they've made a difference in each one's life. I definitely heard that from Pam, Denise, and Kavita. So, if there, can you give an experience from your life that you've benefited from working or professionally or personally from male advocate who has helped you advance your career?
Okay, let me start. Okay, first thing I wanted to say is Mr. Ani, he's the only male here on this panel. We should have had, we should have had equal amounts of male peer, how do I tell you, representatives
Yes,
I
of
agree. I agree,
agree.
Nirupama. Sorry to interrupt you, but
you know,
that's
He
what I
said
told
this.
Nazeera.
He said this to
yeah.
me. He said this a week ago, and unfortunately, the couple of the other men that I did approach to be on the panel just didn't have the scheduled time. But definitely, I said a point to consider for our future
No,
panel
it's not
discussion.
just about it. And as like I'm not taking a dig at men, but that is in their polite way of saying I don't give a damn for a panel like this. Okay, most like because it tickles their ego. Okay, and this is the truth. This is honest truth. And as Pam was talking about, equality in workspace is increasing of late. Uh, in IT, in information technology, and like anything to do with scientific research. Yes, because that that completely requires knowledge. Okay, and so that is not something that you can you can't ask a networking engineer to do something. I mean, like to perform a aerodynamics role. You know, but because I'm from the finance industry, I'm a certified financial advisor, which is why I'm a investment portfolio consultant. But in the finance industry, it is very, very difficult, especially in hedge funds and venture capital funds. No, there is a high rise of ego, male pride that takes over. The workspace. They don't encourage women. They think that women are, they are not competent enough to take decisions, and they think that it's all emotional ridden decisions. Okay, which I don't think. Yes, Miss Ani wanted to speak.
Go ahead, finish your thoughts, and then he'll have a comment. Go
No,
ahead,
no, no,
Niru.
you can go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Ani, I heard male pride and male ego, which I
Yeah.
think we can vouch to an extent. Go ahead, Ani. But
Yeah.
you're not among that midst. So
Thank you. No, with Nirupama's permission, I'll take a couple of minutes of her time.
Yeah,
One is I mentioned that the environment needs to change, and I'm happy to state that I work for a company which was founded in India about 45 years ago. The initiatives that are laid out at an organization level creates that whole uh, upward mobility charter for women. And to Nirupama's point, the male pride uh, will get will get diffused, will get killed by itself when you have initiatives that flower and fruits are born. I'm just mentioning five key areas of inclusion and initiatives that are laid out at my organization.
do you
One
want
is,
me to share that one slide,
oh,
Ani?
can you show that if you can?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Talks of basically five areas. One is the largest is the gender inclusive initiative, and it has various programs that go down to entry level joinees of the organization, the peer interaction that has to happen, the management growth that has to happen, the L1 interaction in terms of meeting with the CEO, meeting with CEO minus one, uh, defining aspiration and making those aspirations come true, uh, are all related to gender and career support. Then there is the multiculturalism through the culture inclusivity. There is the ability inclusivity across organization, across geographies. The LGBTQ, the Pride at HCL initiative, and inclusivity as a belief system. These are five things that are actually taught, and I'm happy to say that today the chairperson, the she's probably the first chairperson for a large IT organization out of India, Ms. Roshni Nadar, our chairman's daughter, who has come up through the ranks, is the chairman of the organization. So there's a lot of change that can come in, provided you create that initiative and you allow women to lead and take up these initiatives.
Very well said. Very well said, Ani. I did share the first screen. So we completely agree. This is the change has to be systemic. It has to be the inclusion has to be from the top leadership, and I think no one else can do it better than a woman leader who understands what she or he has gone through. So that leads to Niru. Are you done with your comments?
No, I'm not. Yeah, so I've not answered your question yet. So asking about who was my inspiration, or like, my, okay, Naz, this might come as news to you. So it starts both sides with my paternal and maternal side. Okay, let me talk about my maternal side. My maternal great grandmother, that is my mom's grandmother. It She was a mathematician by profession. She's a professor, and there were she she actually fought for women's rights. Okay, this was pre-independent India. Okay, and she has been like she has also fought for the the Dravidian rights, and it is in her name that the first women's college in Tamil Nadu is actually named after. So her name is Dr. Dharmampal, and I don't know how many people know here of Periyar, who is who's a revolutionist, and he primarily spoke of equal rights for women and men. He is family as well, and the name Periyar was given to him by my great grandmother.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Okay, that's
Dr.
so.
Dharmampal.
She and
So
I
she
are
is,
from the same state, so that's why I'm able to relate to what she's saying. Go ahead, Niru.
yeah. So she has been. They have been pioneering. So, and also my mom. She was a um, deputy revenue officer for Chennai city, and so I mean, if you have to hold such a big position, you'll have to be very commanding. So was my dad. My dad was in the civil service, so they were all like very strong personalities, and I'm the only child. So so it has come down to me, that they have they have taught me a way that you never let go of your confidence. Confidence, that is one thing that um I feel gifted about.
Natalie, the next question is for you, and if you can unmute yourself. So, Natalie, if you remember when I was on the 10th floor along with you in the office, I felt like I was the only brown person walking walking on the floor, but maybe things have changed, right? So you can imagine you talked about being a black person, and me here as a brown person among the blacks and whites, and the only one. Are you even understanding me? Do I have to speak very slowly? And, just do I have to change myself in how I look and how I speak? So that was how I felt at that time. And I didn't feel comfortable talking about it to anyone at that time, right? Why I'm coming to that is because diversity and inclusion, right? It's actually receiving a lot of attention these years. How do you see local government, either being in your position or even otherwise, as a change agent that can affect individual and collective senses of belonging, and not just to one culture or to many cultures, but just that inclusivity, right? What is unique to your county, and is that a village that brings diversity and inclusion along?
Well, Nazeera, that's a very good question because I recently sponsored a resolution to declare racism as a public health crisis in Fulton County, and it passed through the Board of Commissioners. There are many other counties and cities across the United States that have passed similar legislation, but what I did different from everyone else is I made it where we actually are creating a task force, and that task force will be made up of one constituent from each commissioner's district, as well as organizations that specifically have a mission and a vision to tackle racism as a whole, and not just for Black people, but for Black and Brown people. And so we are adding organizations that tackle racism for for Asian Americans, for Indian Americans, for Hispanic and Latino Americans, and many more, because we realize that we still have a problem in America. And we know that just from the recent shootings that happened in Atlanta. And so, it's amazing to me when I think about the legislation that I just did 2 months ago, how timely it is and how necessary it is. So I think one of the things that I said that our task force must do is they need to look at Fulton County's policies, programs, and services and see if those three things, those three areas, have equality and equity. And there's a difference between inequity and inequality. And so they need to look at those three areas and make recommendations on, are there policies, services, and programs that we need to completely abolish? Are there those that need to be changed and updated to ensure that they do provide equity and equality? And are there new ones that we need to put in place? Are there new policies? Are there new programs and services? And that task force will bring their recommendation forward to the Board of Commissioners, and they will present that to us within a year. So that's the way that I'm trying to help to ensure that we have diversity and inclusion. And we have other areas of the county that are trying to look at that as well. Our ethics office continues to do the work to ensure that we are doing that.
Which would include cultural training, cultural and diversity training, implicit bias training, which is very important because as a Brown manager, I felt it was, I had a tough time sort of understanding the cultural barriers or the sensitivity, managing a team. Which didn't look like me, sort of, right? But ultimately, our goal was of the organization to achieve that. So, one more question, adding to as a follow up, Natalie, is yes, apart from institutional change and environmental change, have you advocated for women individually? What I mean by that, even as simple as a step where in a group of men, boardroom meetings, a woman speaks up and she gets shut down, right, much faster. So have you taken steps, or do you feel like you've done that enough and you're representing and are standing up for other women as well?
What I have been told is just my presence as a commissioner on that level has brought that to the organization. And the fact that I do not bite my tongue, I do speak out. And I recently won an award from the city of Stockbridge. Their electeds and their Chamber of Commerce recognized me as a woman who will speak out, and I will not allow anyone to shut me down. And it was just amazing to receive that, because I never thought of myself like that, because even when I was running, people said, there's no way she's going to win. Her voice is too soft. Her presence is too meek. And I said, well, the meek shall inherit the earth. And so I represent the woman that, most people would just look at and say, okay, she can't do this, she can't do that. And they put you in a little box. She's too feminine, she's too soft. But I have been an advocate for those things that a lot of people are scared to be an advocate for, even men. So I will never stop, and I will continue to be that figure in this position for all women.
Thank you so much, Natalie. That says a lot and speaks a lot. So thank you for that representation. Fazleen, I see that you have a quick comment, and then I do want to go to Kavita and Pam. Go ahead, Fazleen.
I did, but I would definitely like to make a comment and say that's amazing to hear, Natalie, and it's very commendable to let people see through your actions who you are.
Okay.
And, yeah.
Sounds good. I do see a raised hand, but Ani, did you raise your hand to speak? Yes.
Yes, I did. I just wanted to add, and maybe Vice Chair Natalie would know her, but I was privileged to be invited to the Technology Association of Georgia's Women in Technology Board of BNI by a lady called Jackie Claire Russian. I don't know if Vice Chair Natalie would know her, but she's a huge advocate of women's equality and gender equality initiatives for the Technology Association of Georgia.
Very nice. Thank you.
I don't know her. I would love to meet her though.
Sure.
Thank you. Thank you, honey. So, Kavita, let's come back to you because I feel you are like, you keep saying utopia, right? So I'm like, oh my gosh, any questions that I ask Kavita, she's like, but I've had a wonderful life, which is very, very, very good to feel just how, you've gone through. But which identities make you feel great about yourself? I think so far I can understand how you're going to answer that. But the follow-up question to this is, was there a time when you felt like one or more of your identities was judged, ignored, or made you feel uncomfortable? And again, I do want to I have another question following that, but after your answer.
While I grew up in a utopia, the fact is that I'm a freelance journalist and I'm also a practitioner of energy medicine, which has now been recognized by the American Public Health Association as a very valid complementary energy medicine. And I was invited in 2013, probably the only journalist to present at the American Public Health Association's annual conference, which normally only invites Nobel Prize winners and people from the top healthcare industry to present a case of a paranoid schizophrenic young man who his entire and his entire family was out of physicians. So I meet all kinds of people, whether they're celebrities or they're people on the street. My most wonderful conversations 2 years ago happened conversing with the chauffeurs of the drivers of the celebrities who send their cars to pick me up. So I don't live in a utopian world. I was raised in a utopia by parents who thought I was kick-ass and never let me forget that. And if you get to know me well, you know that there has never been an identity crisis in my life because I know very well who I am. And the moment you know that, you don't make mistakes because I was never defined by what people thought of me. And I was one of those people who, if I was told I can't do something, I would say, I'll show you. But I also understand that everybody is not like that. By the way, both my daughters can change tires, but my son cannot. So there is gender inequality. So he's the middle child, so it's not like he was the youngest and the baby, but he can't do so many things that my daughters can do. So the thing is this, that you are really, if you have the courage and you have the support, because as Annie said, no man is an island unto himself. There's something about Kannadiga guys. My husband is one. There's this new phrase of the metrosexual man, and there's also this phrase by which we describe women as alpha women. It's kind of interesting that we categorize and label people. As a healer, I would say it's the feminine and the masculine side that we all have that come to the fore in given circumstances. I have seen women suffer around me, but you'll be surprised at the number of men who suffer too. Because as a healer, I have privy to a lot of men as well as women who come to me for life coaching or healing work or energy work, and many of them are CEO of very large companies, and it's the same with women. So I honestly believe that the problems that we face maybe were created by the way men were raised, and in the old days in India especially, and you can actually see the mindset of women depending on which country they were born and raised. For example, even if you talk of political leaders, you'll see that most political leaders in South Asia were either from political dynasties or very wealthy families, right? So there was a disparity there. Then you look at other women raised in different countries, their background and circumstances make a big difference. So I really feel that in a level playing field now, women are doing a lot of stuff, and I am an optimist. I don't believe the glass is half full or half empty. I believe that you can fill it up as and when you want. Especially after reading this IBM report, they launched this first women in leadership study in 2019 to see how the resources and the support when they gave women in a couple of years, how it would pan out. And they realized that in the 2 years, not only has everything stagnated, women haven't moved forward, there aren't enough women leaders in the pipeline to take over major executive positions, right? So for me, I think every life matters. And I think before Black Lives Matters, showed the racial disparity, my son was 15 years old and he told me in 2008, My life is really boring because his teacher asked him to write a project of something that altered his life. It was a life altering experience. So I did what mothers do. I took him to death row. I said, okay, let's change your life. Those of you who are in Georgia, and I'm a Georgian too, know of the black man, Troy Davis. He became very famous. President Carter wrote about him. He became an international celebrity. Well, he was also my son's mentor. I took him to meet Troy, literally 2 days before his execution, the third execution date. And he became my son's mentor. And that was a question that was asked of my son. You're of Indian origin. How come you are writing and talking about this black man? He ended up writing a book called Remain Free, which was his a memoir. Growing up with death row in the background, his mentor was Troy. He told my son, "You got a gut." My son worked out in bench press. You are the only one I expect to get a perfect score on the SAT. My son went and got that score. So, we are all imprisoned in our minds. When a man behind bars created so much change, um, that book actually won my son Georgia Author of the Year. He beat out President Carter in that same category. So, what I'm trying to say is that, as women, instead of like really bashing men and trying to like talk about how we are play victim of our circumstances, I think we can all rise, whether we were raised in utopian surroundings or we were raised with difficulties. You cannot blame your family and your parents and your upbringing on what you are eventually in life, because you can rise above any circumstances. The mind, my favorite t-shirt in the Boston Museum of Science is "It's all in the mind." So I have had only predominantly male mentors, and they were amazing men. Even on Mother's Day, it's my dad I talk about, because he was such a Mr. Mom in spite of being a military general. They used to call him the saint soldier because he even treated prisoners of war with kindness. So I learned that ability to be compassionate but also strong. So I think that's really important. I hope I've
Very
answered.
well said. No, I think you more than answered the question, Kavita. I think you've sort of put all our discussion today into that a small shell of this is the brief of our whole discussion today. So I completely trust and believe what you just said. In fact, I did write an article and I called myself Mr. Dad. I'm like, of course, because I'm the head of the family. I'm earning, and so there's nothing wrong. The Mr. Dad can, actually, the real dad can actually cook at home, wash the kids. He can become the Mr. Mom, right, or Mrs. Mom, however that is. So yeah, so those mindsets are definitely changing. My next follow-up question, I think you answered it very wonderfully, Kavita. My follow-up question on that one is, there is this myth or belief that you have to be, and I think it's coming back to what you just said. You have to be either pro something, or and if you are pro something, then you're anti something, right? So how do you sort of bust those myths or extinguish such myths? Because it can be on anything. It can be not just on politics or religion. It can come back to even feminist. Like if you're pro something, then you're anti something. Do you want to add a few words to that?
Yeah, I will. I think, the fact remains that we do have issues that we have to work on. The fact remains that there is, wage disparity. The fact remains that women, 99.5 years for women to catch up. It takes a Mexican woman 23 months to make the salary that a white man makes in 1 year. There are all these comparisons and there are studies, and you can do as many blind studies as you want. But the fact remains that if we can have the empathy and compassion to work together to solve these problems. There is no reason for us to be. I mean, it's a sad thing, like I wrote when I, shared this session on my Facebook page, that we are still talking about gender inequality. I've seen some men who've been really bashed. The Me Too movement is woman dominated, but again, there I've had arguments with my husband, who's very pro women and the problems women face in the industry, and he said, "You don't understand." I said, "Hey, I was an 18-year-old young girl in a totally male bastion. Nobody dared to misbehave with me, because it's how you conduct yourself, right?" And so we are often driven by need, greed, fear, anxiety. Okay, so I said, I was having a conversation with this singer, and she said, "Listen, when you're blaming a man for coming on to a woman, then you have to blame that first woman who agreed to sleep with a man to get what she wanted, right?" So though it's on both ways. So you can't be against something and for something, because all of us anyway define things the way we want to define, isn't it? We are never going to come to a consensus, but we can courteously agree to disagree on certain things and then look at the solution. It's not that there won't be days that we'll feel sorry for ourselves, whether it's a man or a woman, like, "I'm being victimized, I'm being treated badly." There's not one of us who can say that I wasn't disrespected at some point in my life. It could even be family members, right? But how do you handle that situation? Okay, feel sorry for yourself for 10 minutes. It's good to feel sorry. And then say, okay, what's the solution? And the solution is only the amount of courage you have to face reality. So that's what I mean. My bottom line would be working together is the only way for this planet. It's not working for women or working for men. It's for creating a wonderful, better planet for our children to grow in and prosper in, because we'll be gone in 30, 40, 50 years. But it's our children and the children's children. And I really tell you that the younger generation, lack of respect, I haven't seen that. I have so much faith in the younger generation. Have some faith in the way you brought up your children. Okay, in my son's age group and in my daughter's age group and in the younger generation, my 6-year-old granddaughter is now growing organic food, and she changed her own filter and said, "Hey, I changed my own filter." We are creating children who are capable of changing the world, and I have a lot of hope and faith from, at least I've seen the children of my peers, my friends across racial borders to be very evolved, highly intelligent, because they have access to so much that we didn't get growing up. The internet, everything is a click of the mouse away.
Very
So
well said.
and Dennis was really right. It's the mother, it's the hand that rocks the cradle, can rule the world if given the opportunity.
Definitely.
So
You
all
brought up
together.
a very important point, Kavita, about fear. And I think if we are able to come out of our comfort zone, personally, I was raised in a very, very conservative family, never touched finances, never understood math, more of a science student. So, Dennis, we have that in India. Either you're in science or you're in arts. So, I took up science and became a doctor, even after fighting to get to become a doctor. But even with that said, I was running for campaign. I was doing all this and I didn't know how to use an ATM. So, and this is the truth. And I didn't know how do I go into a bank and write a check. And here I was, a physician running for office and didn't know how to sign a check or go into the bank. When I go into the bank, I would start palpitating, just palpitations, because I avoided. But there came a situation where there was no go. I just had to do it. And then now running a company is because I was able to come out of the comfort zone. And I think that definitely is. So Pam, I know I just saw that Vice Chair has to leave soon. So I just definitely want her to give some final comments before she leaves. And I'm coming right to you, Pam, and Dennis, and then Neru Fazlin for your questions. Vice Chair, would you like to give some closing comments from your side since you have to leave?
Okay, I just want to first thank you, Nazeera. You've always been a force to reckon with, and even when you worked for Fulton County in our Department of Health and Wellness, you always took the lead to include people in everything and to make sure that everyone was cared for. And so to be here participating on this panel with you, I'm not surprised, and I hope to do much more with you in the near future. So, and to all of the other panelists, it has been an honor to be on this panel with you. I've learned a lot, and that's something that I really enjoy. I always say you can learn something every day of your life, and you never get too old to learn. And so I want to extend my a welcome to you that if you need anything from me, I am here for you. I'm on all the social media at Fulcode D4. That's FULCOD and the number 4. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. And you can also call my office if you need to. My office number is 404-612-8226. And you can also email me. It's my full name. It's natalie.hall@fultoncountyga.gov. And I welcome you. If there's anything else that you want me to do, I am here for you. Thank you all.
Thank you so much. We appreciate you. We appreciate your representation. We applaud you on your success and wish you continued success in the future. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
But Pam, let's talk about, and recently I was on a panel about imposter syndrome. Let's quickly touch upon that. We have a few more minutes, probably 15 to 20 more minutes. I want to make sure we touch upon other subjects like depression, mental health in women and men, and discrimination. So we haven't touched that. There's so much more. And I'm like, oh my gosh, but this conversation is going so organically and I don't want to disrupt. So, Pam, the imposter syndrome. So, no matter how, and I've heard, we hear, and until now, many people don't even know this exists, and it's usually attacking the highly achieved, professionals, highly achieving professionals. So, no matter how good you are, at some point, you're not. It's not about confidence. It's just that you consider, oh my gosh, you become self doubt. So, how do you? Is that something that you are continuing to notice now, or is that something you talk about to your professionals during your consultancy?
Of course.
There
Yes,
you
of
go. We
course.
should
And
do
for
episode
those that,
two.
well, for those that might not know, I mean, imposter syndrome is really when you're working on something or you're doing something, but you have this feeling that you're not worthy of that for some reason. Just to give a baseline for everyone that's listening, they might not know what that catchword means. And I think all of us feel that at some point or another. I think the important thing with women in leadership, like we're talking about here, and striving, that mentoring piece, Ani was talking about in his company, the different levels that they have. I've seen in corporations too, where they have like advocates for women, and they might have a women's group, and then they have advocates that are in all different levels within the company, mentors for those women that want them. And that is really a big help with fighting imposter syndrome, to have, because you need somebody outside of yourself to say, you belong there, you have the skills, you are worthy. And sometimes, our own mindset, like we were talking about earlier, I mean, I'm a neuro-linguistic programming practitioner, I'm certified in that. And our unconscious mind is very powerful, and it's doing a lot of work in the background. Our conscious mind is only aware of a small amount of what we're taking in, and we need to think about reprogramming how we think about ourselves. And it really is just again a process of just confirming that you are worthy to be in the position that you're in. I will say, oh, backing up real quick, this is I don't know, squirrel, they call it. Yes, squirrel. My dad made me learn how to change a tire before I could go to get my driver's license. I just had to say that
Oh my
before
gosh, see, that's a
before I
great
move on.
example of a male advocate supporting your life. Yeah.
Yes, well, yeah, he was good about that. And but what I want to say is, in the leadership realm, I think that we do need more women in leadership, but in my mind, it doesn't just need to be a woman just to have a woman there. I've seen in corporations where a woman gets promoted or a woman gets hired, but she's not necessarily the best qualified for that job, and it really sets her up for failure. And then that's a negative. It's a negative. It just goes throughout because other people in the organization see that. And what we need to do is empower our women and equip them with the skills to then be worthy and capable when they do step into that leadership position. And I think those mentors really help, back to your question, with the imposter syndrome, for us to continue to have that confidence to keep and learning and challenging ourselves moving forward. But yes, I think we all deal with it. I know I do.
Definitely. Thank you so much,
Yeah.
Pam, for the definition of it as well. So,
Yeah.
Denise, let's talk quickly about mental health, right? Usually, women suffer more. They either because they're discriminated or they go through some trauma even in young age, and some of the life experiences, right? Actually, if you see, depression is more common among women, but actually, suicide rate is more common among men. But with that said, how do you think organizations or support groups can actually help cope with these mental health disturbances, or promote mental wellness among women? Is this something that they can cope alone, or is this something that we all should cope together? And what is missing in the current treatment of mental health wellness in the industry? Because just look at it, even in schools, a teacher, right, she spends entire time of her, and she can't even express anything, and she's going through all this turmoil in her mind. And we have, all of us have this story in us. We can't just express. I mean, I've actually emotionally, I've shed tears in front of meetings because I am an emotional person in a positive way, because I can. But it's considered a weakness. No, but that's me. Like, I want to be able to show who I am, and I can't hide it completely. So, but everybody cannot show because it's going to considered a weakness, especially for women. And of course, men, no way they can't cry. So all these
I cry.
all these preset notions, how do we people change it? So, but anyway, coming back to mental health, how important is it?
I think the mental health is one of the biggest issue. It doesn't matter you're a man or woman. I believe the pets also have the mental health because you're the only pets in the house. No other pets you can talk to. I think the dog is going to be very lonely too. So I think as far as for the mental health, it's all about the support systems. And I have this thought in my, I think it's probably in my next life I will try to do it is because I want to be a psychologist. The reason is, let me tell the reason why. I'm a realtor, okay? So everybody thought, well, you're selling houses. How difficult would that be? I say, you don't understand, okay? I have to understand the entire history of her or his family before they will buy a house. Once they buy a house, you start figuring out all this problem for their family. All of a sudden, I find out, I'm like, what, psychologist? Okay? Because then I think, if you don't give them the time to talk, okay, anybody needs somebody to talk to. And every time when that person to talk to you, they will say, just between you and me, not anybody else. Then your goal is, okay, just between you and me, telling me. So I find out that I'm the biggest, the big hole in the universe. You got to be a big black hole because you got to absorb everything that you could. It doesn't matter. They know that. I'm not psychologist. I'm not neuroscientist. I'm not mathematician or whatever. But put it this way, they will tell you whatever they want to tell. You can tell is they don't have a place to talk to. They need somebody they talk to. They can't even talk to their significant others. They can't even talk to anybody else. Because why? Because nobody wants to show their weakness to somebody that they know. Okay? Because that show their weakness. A lot of people think that is the problem. But I think the support system is finding a person. Okay. It might not be a doctor. It can be anybody. Okay. But it's the person you can trust. And that person need to, how do I say, lend you an ear, lend you a time, sit down and listen to them. And I always tell them that. I said, if somebody call me, okay, in the middle of the night, if it's my family, it's definitely in danger because my family's in Asia. So when they call you, knowing that you're asleep, you got a phone call. For me, that's worse than 911. Seriously. I will be jumping up and down, trying to answer the call, what's going on. I said, don't call me in the middle of the night unless you are alive and dead. Otherwise, it's 911, not me. Okay? Oh my God. I mean, middle of the night, the phone rang. Oh my God. And I said, if you are in danger, you can reach me because I have the phone. I said, keep on calling that I know you are in danger because 911 can help you. Okay, fine. And, I will help. But one thing is, I think we need somebody. Find out, everyone here, somebody that I believe any one of us will have some person that you need and you'll be able to talk to. Okay. And what? Be honest with yourself. Don't hide. If you get a chance to talk about it, talk about it. Okay. It doesn't need a psychologist sitting over there charging maybe $500, $600 an hour to listen to you. Okay. Of course, I'm not saying that psychology doesn't work anything. They have their professional. Something you do need them. Okay. But I'm saying like everyday life. That's what we talk about. I can tell Niru have a very busy life. Okay. So I tell a lot of women, don't try to be a strongest woman. You don't need to. Okay. You need to have the strongest mindset. Not showing people that I'm strong. You give me whatever, I can tackle it. Oh, no. Multitasking, and neurology already said, it's not going to be good for your health. Okay. Because you're doing too many things at the same time. You're stretched yourself. Okay. You're not going to be healthy. Another thing is make sure that if you need help, open your mouth to talk about it. Okay. I hear about all guys you saying, okay, Black lives matter, all lives matter. You're right, all lives matter. But the thing is this, a lot of the things that we talk about, like right now, a lot of people, they have mentality issues because racist. Trust me, Pam, unfortunately, you are the only white person here. Our, black lady already gone. But think about this. If we all talk about these things, which I have a white friend, he said this. Now I feel like I'm so guilty being a white. what have I done? I'm born to be this race. Wasn't, you know what? Ask yourself. This is what I call him. Ask if you believe in the God, okay? So now you can come back on the earth. Do the God give you the choice, say, what color you want to be if you can rebirth? I don't think so. You got the choices. You're born wherever you just born. You can't even choose who you want to be because you're born. But you need to understand. Don't give yourself the stress of being white or being brown or being black. Okay. And then right now, when I open on the TV and everything, you know what? I think white is also a color. Okay. So if all of us against the white for some reason, now we are racist. Okay? Because why? We're racist against white. Those white people, think about them. Not saying that, I don't care or I too care about them. No, what I'm trying to say is we need to learn to respect, as I said, each other, regardless of their color, regardless of their race. Okay? Because right now everybody say, racist. Then you turn on the TV, everything is one color. Trust me, I don't care which channel you turn. All those ads, everything one color. We're the brown people. Now you're going to say, okay, you know what? India is also Asian, right? But a lot of Indian friends tell me, no, 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 I'm Indian. Because why? When you talk about Asian, they all think about Chinese. No, that's wrong. Okay, there's no Chinese. Okay, we are all a human being, and I always say this: our blood are all red. That's no other color other than red. Okay, that's one
Very
color. But what happened to if you have a difficulty to talk to someone, nobody willing to listen to you? Don't even think you can only talk to your own races. You can talk to other people. If I trust Pam, trust me, I'll pick up the phone and say, Pam, I really don't feel comfortable about what happened right now. Let's talk about it, okay? Because you have a different people. Talk to them about different issues. That's no one-stop shop for all the solutions, okay?
definitely.
We need to talk to the people that we believe. And I see Kavita, trust me, I will call her for something that I think she knows better than I do because I don't have that knowledge about it. And
Definitely.
I don't feel comfortable. We need to talk to her. Let's open up ourselves, find our, how do I say, network, okay? Find the people that we can trust. It may be an organization, it may be a person, or it may be a group, okay? Open up ourselves, talk to them, okay? That is how we can address this mental issue.
I think you have wow, what about great pointers and suggestions you made, Dennis. Especially the blood is red. Yes, of course. You came back to the human being among all of us rather than the color or the race. So very well said. We are coming close to the closing comments, but I want to make sure I go through the second session of questions with Fazleen and Niru. If we are 5 to 7 minutes beyond the 12:30, I hope it's okay with you all, just to make sure. And guess what? We haven't even talked about love and marriage yet. And I don't think I don't think we have time in this session to talk about it. And definitely, Fazleen suggested phase two. We'll have that as a a follow up of this session. Fazleen, the quick question for you is: how do we impart these leadership skills and some of the important pointers from growing up from young, from the younger generation itself? Is this something that is teachable and should be taught, leadership skills and living well mentally, and socially from young childhood itself?
Absolutely. Going back to the very early comment that Kavita made about her father, I think there's something to be said about the early childhood development. We learn most of our mindset is done and sort of etched by the time we're 8 years old, according to various studies. So there's something to be said about the role models that we see, and then whether we know it or not, we emulate them in our lives. I can completely concur with every word Kavita said and has said about her father, because I have been one of the very fortunate ones. I often say that I struck the biggest lottery of my life by landing in the household and being raised by these lovely two people, my mom and dad. So therefore, coming from a small town of Hyderabad. By the way, there's a Hyderabad in Pakistan as well.
Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know that. I'm
I
like,
was,
wait, she's from India now?
well, my ancestors, of course, at the end, we all are from India.
That's true, yes.
Gujarati origin, and born and raised in Sindh, Hyderabad, and coming from a small town like that. Now, leading the lifestyle and making the career choices that I made, I owe it all to my father, being able to choose the career and strive in it. And it's all because of my parents and the family support. So yes, we show, or just the other day I was having a conversation with somebody, and I was like, kids do not learn from the words you utter, they learn from the actions that you make. So if we can be more mindful of and the respect that we give to the women in our family, the way the way I saw my father treating my mother and his daughters, it's totally reversed. We're three sisters and one brother. And often, at times, my brother would feel, a bit at a disadvantage because, my dad raised very strong women, and my mother. So I think the learning ground it really is your home. And after that, it's really upon each one of us to show respect to each other, and that's how our kids will learn.
Sure, and I have the final questions to Niru and Ani, and I have to completely agree on what you said, Fazleen. Just yesterday, very surprisingly, my daughter, who's 13, said, "Mom, she loves her friends. They're like this gang of friends, very very close knit, growing up, very diverse." She said, "I have these weirdo friends. All of them are always mostly talking about what cars and what college should I go into, and they're only in 8th standard now." So, and then she says, and then I have to keep telling them to live in the moment. Like, don't, instead of going back to the future, let's enjoy and live in the moment. I'm like, oh my gosh, where does she get that from? And I always talk about living in the moment, be happy, be present. And so you're right, it gets picked up from our actions. Niru, what does success mean to you? Niru, if you can hear us, or we're not able to see you, or you're on mute. Nirupama? Okay, so Ani, while she's getting back on, the question to you. Oh, go ahead, Niru. What does success mean to you?
Success is different for everybody. I think, once I read something, that if I set a goal and I reach there, and then that doesn't feel like success to me. You keep thriving, because that is, I think that is a main trait of being human.
Yes.
Because you keep thriving, you reach somewhere, and you think, oh no, you've not done. It's not not done well enough, or it's not about It's not about satisfaction. It is about trying to prove your own self, not somebody else.
To yourself, yes.
Try to experiment your own potential abilities. It's not somebody else's, or it's not it is not okay. It is not in the light to prove somebody else what you are potential of, but to see what you yourself are capable of.
Very
So
well said.
I don't think I would put a benchmark to what success is, because if I drew that line there, that means that is what I'm capable of, and I can't go any further than that. So I am not a person like that. So
Set the goals higher and celebrate the small wins. So now that your daughter has been with us, can you tell us her name? What's her what is her name?
Her name is Adya Zoe.
Adya Zoe. Thank you so much, Niru.
Adya is the first letter in the Tamil like it's not alphabet, like the first letter in Tamil literature. So Adya means Adi is the first letter. So Adya means the beginning.
Oh, wow. Very well. Very
Zoe,
nice.
Zoe means life. So the beginning of
Beginning
my
of
life.
life. Very cool.
The
Very
beginning of
cool.
my life.
Yeah, so please make sure to thank her and give her a hug for sharing
Yeah,
her
definitely.
time,
Yeah.
allowing you to share her time with us. So, Ani, I
Yeah.
do want to make sure that I read
Quickly,
out.
I just need to quickly make a point, like, because you were all talking about mental health. Okay, I work with people who deal with mental health issues. So what I observed, as I just wrote, like especially with the Asian communities and the African communities, our communities, our families are based, like our families are completely community and societal based families. So every decision that we take, it is based on, like what others might think or what others might comment. So a lot of the time, people are forced into situations that they're not happy about and they're not comfortable in, but just because to please somebody else. This is why a lot of people, like you see, when you are forced into a situation like this, a lot of times, like luckily, like I suppose, like for you and for me, like for people here in this panel, they might have been fortunate enough to have parents who support their decisions, and who stand by their decisions, right? But that is not the case with a lot of people, right? So even though, like you might actually see a doctor or an engineer or a data scientist, who would be forced into a marriage that she or he would have not really wanted to. And then, like it's not just like just to satisfy the people around, the society around. They live their entire life in despair. Okay, and I think this is the main cause of depression, like with mental health issues, because mental health issue, again, like it gets like little hereditary, because I think it has some. So, and another thing is that people from in Asian communities and African communities, they hesitate to come and talk. Okay, they hesitate to come and talk. They think that even seeking help for these kind of
It's a taboo.
issues
Yes.
is a taboo. Okay, so they live in that stigma throughout their life.
And it's
Okay,
sad. It's sad. Yes.
in pain. Okay, and I understand that in the US, like the medicine is paid, like you have to pay for your hospitals. Here in the UK, you don't. Even when it is free,
They're not
people
coming in.
hesitate. People hesitate. And another thing is that people hesitate to talk to others in the fear of being judged. you
Yes.
know so I think this is especially with people who come from, who migrate into Western countries. I think they are the ones who need at most help, because they are out of their comfort zone, you see. So, and they are exposed to a new culture.
Atmosphere and new environment. Yes, I completely
Yeah.
agree. I think you
And
bring in a very
yeah,
good point.
because
Very.
I work with these people, so they struggle with the first time birth, like giving birth to a child for the first time. Some of the immigrants, they find themselves in absolute despair.
Sure.
Okay, because they don't have help, and it is not easy to find help in these countries. Like you can't have a doula, and like or a maid, because like you end up paying like £10, £15 per hour. So not a lot of people can afford that. I suppose that
Sure.
I don't know how it is in the US, but again, I think people who migrate, and they need more help. They need, I think, go through a
They.
lot. They
Yes.
don't express themselves. They don't.
Definitely. Yes,
I
Niru.
those are the people I work with. So
Sure, yeah,
I
no,
think that.
definitely, completely. I understand your passion and the reason to help. Definitely understandable that they need a much more higher support system than people who've been in this country for long. So, Niru, point well taken, and something that you can discuss with the commissioner here as well. So, Ani, and thank you, Niru, for your passionate thoughts on those. Ani, we see your cute puppy there. I do want to read your daughter's comment. Yami has written, my father also helped us learn how to change the tires before we got our license. It made us independent in the long run. So grateful for those life lessons. So Yami has been listening to her dad as well. Thank you, Yami. And Ani, my question to you is, what advice would you give to those who are trying to identify and work with other male advocates, including you?
Yeah. So before I answer that, I mentioned earlier that rarely people are self-made. A few words of encouragement, a few directional words can go a long way. So I'm going to make a prophecy here. I'm going to paraphrase something which Denise said. You're the only white woman here, black woman left. Denise, whenever you decide to retire from your current assignment, stand-up comedy would be a great place for you.
There
So
you
with
go.
that,
You already received your future. You have a second job at hand. Go ahead, Ani.
So I think these are common sense things. Okay, the first thing that Denise had answered was, what do you want people to do? People should respect, and respect will come out of common sense thinking, humanity based thinking. So if something is wrong, you call out. It doesn't matter whether you're a man or a woman. Something is just not right. So, and these conversations need to happen very firmly. You'll probably make enemies for the moment, but they'll realize over a period of time that they were wrong. And that is called evolution. So it's not just physical evolution, mental evolution happens. I mean, we were talking about something. I was watching a show and somebody was praising Barack Obama. So I thought I was a brown Obama, when I said I evolved myself. So the evolution has to happen, and we need to make that faster and faster by having more and more conversations. So every time there's a social gathering that happens, I think one must, one thinks of games, party events to happen. I think there has to be a conversation. And one of the first things that we had done, and this is one of those days when we had a lot of ice, snowstorm in Atlanta, 7 days. There was black ice on the road, and I think this was about
Yes.
10, 12 years ago. So everybody was at a friend's house. So we spent 3 nights at a friend's house. Kavita, you may know Rahul and Robin Rena. And so we spent almost 3 nights there, and kids on one side and parents on the other side. We actually opened up subjects of debate to learn from what kids want. And that's what must happen.
Very well said, Ani. Thank you so much. With the next 2 or 3 minutes, I want us to finish the closing comments. Thank you, Ani, again for your thoughts on this and action steps and what we can take. I would like to start with you, Pam, with Kavita, actually you, and then Pam is closing statements, probably 20 seconds or less. So we finish it off in the next 3 minutes. Go ahead, Kavita.
Thank you very much. I think this has been a wonderful conversation, which should continue, as everybody said. I think what I learned from my parents and what I passed on to my children and what I pass on to people who follow me as in social media or even in my workshop, I actually have one in an hour, is that success means helping other people succeed. And the more you give, the more you receive. And I think women also need to support each other because I see in the corporate world, women are always undercutting each other. In the entrepreneurial world, they're there to support each other. So we have to create a strong women's network to stand up for ourselves, to give us that confidence that, the women who are, as Nirupama Prabhakar said, need that support. But I'll tell you that mental illness is something that I'm doing a major cover story on. It is an equal opportunity companion and it's very misunderstood. And medication doesn't always solve everything. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kavita. Very well said, and something that has to be taken into consideration, starting with your own self, and then family, and then your corporation or company that you work in, the mental health wellness. Go ahead, Pam.
Yes, thank you. And Nazeera, I think the strength of what's going on right now is that you are giving a platform to have the conversation around women and women in leadership and empowering women. And the more we can have qualified women in leadership for our to see someone like them in those positions, I think the stronger it's going to be. But what I'm finding is, with the social media and all that, people aren't having the conversations like we're having this morning nearly as much. It's very much siloed. And if you have this opinion and somebody else has another opinion, your opinion's wrong, their opinion's right. And I think we need to get away from that in this topic as well as other topics. And I really thank you for giving us a platform to even just get the tip of the iceberg early this morning, right? You didn't get to all that you wanted. There's so much more. But I think that we had a really valuable exchange of ideas this morning. So thank you for that.
Thank you so much, Pam. Wonderful. I've noted down all these words. Go ahead, Denise. You're on mute. Unmute. Yes.
I think, you know what, since we all talk about, I understand you really say no UK, but remember this, okay? Whenever you get your money, what is said in there? In God we trust. So if you trust your God, why are you fighting with each other? Okay? So again, I want to say again, it's respect. Okay? In this world right now, and it doesn't matter social media or anywhere, we need to respect each other. It's not the majority who want everything. No. It is all about how do we respect each other. Everybody, I mean, at the end of it, you go home to your family. For me, I always tell the people family first. Okay? And then if you don't need help, then you can help the other people. And agree with Kavita, okay? As a what is considered to be successful? For me, successful is you make other people success. That is your successful. You always lend your hand to help the others. Don't forget how do we come, how we can be who we are today. It's not because how smart I am. It's because other people gave me the opportunity to be who I am. It doesn't matter. It's my parents, my family, my peers and everybody. That's why I can be who I am today. So if you go through that process, remember to lead other people the way that wanted to be and treat other people like you want to be treated. And at the end, in God we trust.
Thank you, Denise. Very powerful words. Niru, closing comments, please. 20 seconds or less.
Yeah. Uh, Next time, I think when we do sessions like this, I think there needs to be more men than women. And one thing that we have to encourage everybody, other women in situations, is that you know do not accept to be treated any lesser equal to any men in their life, regardless who it is. It may be their father, a husband, brothers, children, and it has to start from home. So if you're not being treated equal at home, it is again psychological. So if you are not being treated equal at home, you don't have that confidence to carry it outside in an outside world. Okay, so I think we have to focus on emphasizing this equality to start from home, because you can't go and ask this to another person who's a stranger that treat me equally. No.
Yes.
But you can rightly ask your own members of your house who you are related to treat you equally. I
Definitely.
think women have to start standing up for themselves.
True.
That is, if they find themselves in a situation they don't want to be, or they're not comfortable to be in, they will have to voice it out, saying that I am not comfortable being in this situation.
Very,
Yeah.
very well said, Niru. Thank you. We wish you the best with the beginning of life with Adya and continue to
Thank
keep
you.
us posted on how it's going. So we wish you all the best, Niru. Ani, go ahead with your closing comments, please.
20 seconds, yeah. So we need to look at countries which have done well. Something with the Scandinavian weather. Iceland has been number one in terms of closing the gap for 11 years in a row. So it's a smaller country, lesser people. China and India happen to rank 106 and 111 in closing the gender gap. So by sheer numbers, the fact is that with those numbers, if you have that whole multiplier effect, we can actually achieve the gender inequality gap to be reduced. So look at successful countries, look at some of the factors. I think that's a pointer that we need to look at and help the government.
Very well said, Ani. Thank you. We definitely want to thank Nirja and Akshay Gaur for their continuing comments to our session. Fazleen, go ahead with your closing comments, please.
Sure. I want to use these 20 seconds very wisely, and I want to let all of you know that I thoroughly enjoyed today's conversation. I learned from each and every one of you. And Nazeera, I admire your tenacity. This is the fourth year of just chai and chat, and that shows the power of a woman that believes in her voice and her platform, and she created it. And what amazing conversation we had today. I did get a chance to hear your last month's conversation on the impact of Black lives on Brown people. I thought it was brilliant. So I admire this. I am I'm kudos to you. And in future, if you when and as you plan to do an episode on mental health, just know that I'm raising my hand right now and letting you know that I would love to be part of that conversation. And I thoroughly enjoyed meeting each and every one of you.
I already have 4 panelists confirmed for our mental health session today. Yeah. So thank you so much, all of you, for spending 15 more minutes with us beyond the 12:30 time. I appreciate each one of you. And Fazleen, you sort of, the tears in me when it's, yeah. So thank you for those words about the chai and chat. And the only thing is about unity, bringing people together to close that cultural bridge gap that exists, to close that hate that exists, and eliminate that and bring love, unity, and peace to the front. And I think my last statement I would like to make is I think everyone has the right to live in peace in this world. Men or women or children or dad or mom, anyone has the right. If they were brought into this world, they have a right to live in peace. And it happens with people, starts with people like us to stand up for ourselves, but for others as well. So thank you again. Chai and Just Chat is sponsored by Vendorship Inc. every month. Thank you. And this time, thank you for Fulton County Weisman Chair Hall for her support as well and her presence. And Pam, thank you. Denise, wonderful words. Niru, I'm just going to take this and sink in it for the rest of the weekend and take it to my work for next week. All these Kavita, oh my gosh, I enjoy reading your posts about, and we didn't even close or touch the topic about women's integrity and how the opposite gender uses it against. But of course, you mentioned in the beginning that women are responsible to an extent and they have to find themselves where they're falling behind. And Fazleen, thank you. Denise and Ani, thank you for the odd man out, but I think you made an immense presence and a stand, a pedestal with your daughter vouching for you. What else would you need? So go ahead and take care of your family, give our love, and thank each one of your family members for sharing their time with us this morning and allowing you to share the time with us. And thank you, audience, for listening, and keep posted for our next month's conversation. Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you, everybody, and enjoy the weekend.